Hey guys, welcome to the pod.
The Pea Pod. I'm Ladle.
I'm Peace.
And this week we have a full ladle of peas just for you.
So let's get to it. Yes, that's right. This is it, our first episode.
Indeed.
Welcome. This is the Ladle of Peas podcast. So if you're in the wrong podcast, we've got you for a whole hour, so you might as well enjoy it.
Buckle in.
Yeah. Well, I suppose some introductions are in order here. So as we said a second ago, my name is Peas, and this is my stupendous counterpart, Ladle. As most people know us, though, I'm Brennan, and that's Justine.
I'm Justine.
The jimp jesting Justine.
I hate that word. He put jimp in there, and I said, please stop.
It just means good. It means happy. So
There you
anyway, I know it sounds like I'm being the host, like the big host on campus, because I'll talk a lot, but that's just because I talk a lot. We are a team.
Mm-hmm.
This is a group project. So we're very glad that you're here for our first episode. We're super excited for this thing. But the last introduction thing here is this. This is our mascot.
Our pea pod.
Our pea pod. These are our little peas. They have names.
They
Their
do.
Names are...
It's Azariah, and then there's Michelle, and then there's Hananiah.
Hananiah. Which, if you don't know, are the original Hebrew names of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So if you want to, you can call them Shadrach and... Or what do we say?
Shack, and Betty. That's it.
What to do for short. Anyway, so we'll place them around, and they'll be a fun little mascot for us.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, if you're hearing this, you found some way to hear it. But I believe we're going to be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube with the video, if you'd like to watch that, if that's your thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on here? Why are we here? Well, we're both students here at the
Moody Bible Institute.
Which is where we're recording this, as students, obviously. But we're just hoping to sit down, talk about some fun things, scripture, music, stories, and lots more. And we're hoping that it will be encouraging for you and glorifying to God.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that being said, I think it is time that we kick this thing off with our first segment, which we call Welcome to the Word.
Welcome to the Word,
Welcome to the Word.
Brennan.
Justine.
Peas.
Ladle.
Okay. If you don't have your scriptures out, open them up to Psalm 34.
Okay.
Brennan's got a lot more to talk about on this than I do. Just note for that.
We'll go back.
He did his homework, guys.
Yeah, I did. I went to the library and everything. It was great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got like 4 commentaries and everything. Okay, so I'm just going to start by reading it. It's a great passage. Obviously, the Bible's full of great passages, but this thing is it's really rich, especially just for my life in general right now, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, Psalm 34 says this. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul makes its boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me, and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. O fear the Lord, you his saints, for those who fear him have no lack. The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Come, O children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. What man is there who desires life and loves many days, that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Turn away from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. The eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous, and his ears toward their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. When the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. He keeps all his bones, and not one of them is broken. Affliction will slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems the life of his servants. None of those who take refuge in him will be condemned. This is the word of the Lord.
Come on.
Praise be to God. That's what you're supposed to say.
Oh, I don't
So
I
that's
didn't
a
grow
lot.
up in church.
That's a lot. And I think the first thing that I want to start out with that is notable, the precursor, right? The of David when he changed his behavior before Abimelech, right? So if you don't know, back in 1 Samuel, this psalm comes after this story in 1 Samuel, which is basically where David is running from Saul, and he just comes from the priest who gave him the bread of the presence, if you're familiar with that story. But then he comes to this story here, which is he comes to this certain city. I'll just read the section that it references here. It says, "And David took those words to heart and was much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands and made marks on the doors of the gate and let his spittle run down his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, 'Behold, you see the man is mad. Why have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen that you have brought this fellow to behave as a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?'" And that is, 1 Samuel 21:12. So basically, David pretends to be insane because Achish has him, in captive. And so he's like, well, I don't need any use for a madman. So kicks him out, right? Now, the weird thing is that in this story, Achish is the king. And back in Psalm 34, it says he changed his behavior before Abimelech, which, your immediate thought is, oh, did they mess up? Did they, put the wrong name down? But, we believe in the inerrancy of Scripture and that there's nothing wrong in, the Bible.
God don't make mistakes.
Exactly. He doesn't make mistakes. So, doing a little bit of research, I think the consensus among theologians is just that Abimelech is more of a title now, because when Abimelech was king, he was kind of a big deal, a big king. So now it's more like Pharaoh, right? Like every Pharaoh is called Pharaoh, but that's not their name.
Right.
So Abimelech has just become like the title.
The title.
Right. And so whoever wrote this or edited it just kind of put it in there as that sort of thing. Right.
This is who Achish is now.
Right.
He's not Achish anymore.
Yes.
He's Abimelech.
So there's that. What else is there to note? So this is an acrostic poem. And you only get that in Hebrew, right? It goes through the different letters of the Hebrew alphabet. But the interesting thing to note here about Psalm 34 is that in between verses 5 and 6 is supposed to be the letter W that we would have in our English, but it's not there. It's missing. Exactly. And so you wonder, well, why is it missing? I thought you said there's no mistakes in the Bible, right? Well, there is no mistakes, but sometimes there are human error that can affect it. And the general consensus of why there's no verse right there in the middle that's missing is just because a scribe who was copying this down forgot it. Like it was just mindlessness or not good mindfulness of a scribe.
If you're a Moody student listening to this, in Bible intro that we talk about this.
Yes.
And we just passed that in our class. We have Dr. Sanchez. So
yes, because there's another psalm that I was supposed to look up, but I forgot. There's another psalm that has a very similar thing. It's got missing verses. There's actually a lot of psalms for acrostic poems specifically where they have missing verses. But there's another psalm, I cannot remember what it is, but they have it in brackets, and there's a verse in brackets, and you're like, well, why is there a verse in brackets? That's because it was missing for a long time, and then they found a copy that had that missing verse. And so they put it in brackets just to say, this is probably the right verse, but there's...
Sure.
Yeah, we're not
100%.
Not 100%. So
we think it is, but we don't know.
Yes, I think it is, but
okay.
Well, we think it is. Okay. Well, anyway, do you have anything you want to say about it?
Yeah, verse 10. I did a little
verse 10.
Little side quest myself.
Oh, okay.
Earlier today. So, verse 10 talks about the young lions suffer want and hunger, and those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Now, at first I read this and I said, why are we talking about lions? Where did this come from? David, what the heck are you doing? You are a crazy person. You're not just pretending. And then I went in and it actually, there's some commentaries and stuff that say that David thought about lions as strong and young creatures and that they can withstand for so long without any food or anything. So why can't we, basically? Because if we're seeking after the Lord, then we don't have to worry about lacking in those things, and then we'll be strong and mighty like a lion. And so I thought that was an interesting kind of, what do you call it, metaphor?
Yeah.
Would that be a metaphor?
I think so. Yeah.
I'm not a literary
symbol,
genius.
metaphor, whatever.
Symbolic.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. I didn't even know you were going to do that.
No, because you had told me that you were looking for it in the other commentaries.
To beat me to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that you couldn't find anything. And so I was on the lion portion.
Yeah, no, I didn't see anything on the lion portion.
I was like, let me
do some digging.
Yeah.
Okay, well done. Thank you for that. That was good.
You're welcome.
Okay, so some other things to know, I guess. The verses 18 and 19 that says, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all." That is so... I don't know, because you read that if you're reading that in a different part of your life where you don't feel like you're in some sort of despondent, part of your life, you're like, well, that's great. I'm so glad that brings people comfort, and I mean, I like that too. But when you come to a point where you are brokenhearted and you are suffering afflictions, I know my freshman year here at Moody, because we're sophomores now, freshman year at Moody, first semester, I went through it with anxiety because I hate change. Because I was, side note about me, I was adopted from Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia. I was 10 months old, and then moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And why is that funny?
Sorry, I'm just thinking of a lot of jokes about Russia.
Okay.
Just continue.
Okay. Anyway, adopted from Russia, and so that takes a toll on your heart, even as an infant. And so I've always hated change, and I think that's part of it. So coming here to Moody, it just wrecked me. Totally rocked my world. Big city, coming from the suburbs of Grand Rapids. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it. So I had a huge trouble with anxiety and just fear and a lot of things. Reading this in that time, I mean, it was like illuminating. It was like a totally different verse. Like many are the afflictions of the righteous. That's even just counter to what we think, right? Yeah. Like, okay, if you're righteous, if you are in Christ, why would we have afflictions? Jesus is our superhero. He's our savior.
People ask, like, why do bad things happen to good people?
Right.
Boom.
There.
Read Psalm 34.
It will tell you that bad stuff does happen to good people. And it's crazy. So, yeah. It's really encouraging to know that he says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. And that's just good. That's just good to know that he's going to deliver you, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so another thing I want to mention is that every single verse in this passage, in Psalm 34, except verse 21, the Lord is the subject of every single verse except verse 21. Yes. And I went through and highlighted it in my Bible, and I highly suggest you guys do that. Because it's so, like, when you see the word Lord, 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 everywhere, you're like, wow, okay. So David is writing this about escaping Ashish, but when you see the amount of times Lord is in here, you realize it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the Lord, with God. And it's very illuminating, so I highly recommend that you guys do that. I think one more thing I want to say is Psalm 25 relates to this, and in a lot of good ways, because it is a psalm. It's more of a prayer from David, and I'm not going to read it right now because it's just as long as Psalm 34, and I want to take up all of our time. Right. But definitely go read Psalm 25 and then read Psalm 34 because they are super similar in the way that David talks about trusting in God and that God is going to deliver them and he's going to exalt over exalt over his enemies, and just it's very similar structure and way that it reads. It's definitely recommend going and reading that.
Yeah, I mean the Psalms are great.
Yeah, the Psalms in general are amazing.
A psalm a day keeps Satan away.
Satan away. Devil away, yeah. That's a good point. Well, I think that is going to do it for Welcome to the Word now.
Oh, hold on.
You got more?
Well, I just wanted to say that as somebody who didn't grow up in church, for context, I got saved about 3.5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. One of the first songs that I heard in my church was Psalm 34.
Shane
and Shane.
Oh, that's an excellent song.
Because my church does a lot of Shane and Shane songs. Love Shane and Shane. They do great work. And so I had never read this psalm before, and I heard that song, and I was like, oh, this is a bop. I was like, where'd they get these lyrics from? David. The Lord.
Seriously,
and I was like, okay, God, throw down. I was jamming.
You got a good point. You have got a good point.
So, I just think of that song every time. Like, as you were reading it, I was like, oh, taste and see that the Lord is good.
You got a good point. Yep.
I was just jamming.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think of it every time. Anyway, that was my comment. Listen to Psalm 34, Shane and Shane song. If you're not a reader like I am,
listen to it.
Listen to it. It's so good. They do.
I actually, you know what? I do have one more thing I want to say now.
Oh, well.
So
not surprised.
So the whole psalm, right? You notice that a lot of the pronouns change over and over again. And I think a lot of the commentators, what they were saying is David is trying to take what has happened in his life, the blessings he's had in his life, and he wants to show everyone that this is their blessing too. It's not just about him. He wants to like blur the lines between him and the people he's writing to. Well, I mean, he's not writing to anybody, but he wants to blur those lines. So like in verse 4, it says, I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. And you're like, okay, good job, David. I'm so glad that happened to you. But then the next verse says, those who seek him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. And it just goes back and forth between I and you and them and us. And I just think that's really important to note, because it's not, people read Psalm 34 and they're like, okay, this was 1,000 years ago by a guy who was very obviously way more filled with the Spirit than I am. But that's just not true. If you've got Jesus, you've got just as much Spirit as David does. So just important to note that's how David wants you to read the psalm, is that it's about the church, it's about the children of God being able to.
It's about everybody.
Yes. Okay. Next segment, next part.
Side note is about music. Shocker there. Side note. Get it?
Yeah.
I came up with it myself. I'm pretty creative. So we're gonna talk about some music. And this week, Pease and I have picked a song each, one song each, and he's gonna talk about his song. We're gonna do a little talking. I'm gonna tell you about my song, do a little talking, and then we're gonna talk about the Bluey theme song for a little bit, because if you know anything about music, the Bluey theme song has got to be the most confusing, like, time signature, time meter thing.
Yep.
And so we're going to break it down for you a little bit. I'll turn it over to Pease for his song first.
Okay, fine.
Unless you're tired of talking, then I'll go.
Nope, I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, so the song that the song of the week is just something that, we've been listening to, or even just like one of our favorite songs, if we can't think of it like that. One of the songs I've just been listening to recently, since the album came out, is Jehovah by Elevation Worship. I love Elevation. I love Brandon Lake. They're a good group.
Yeah.
I know there've probably been plenty of controversies with them too, but this song specifically is off of their new album. It's called Can We Imagine? I actually don't know. I don't remember. But it's a really great song. And I kind of break down music into categories of lyric and musicality. Obviously, I think a lot of people do that. But they both hit like really well. Okay, so I'll read it for you. So the first thing says, he shames every idol. He reigns without rival. He goes by the name of Jehovah. He speaks into nothing, and darkness goes running. He goes by the name of Jehovah. And then the chorus, is call the name, call the name, call the name, Jehovah. All our praise, all our praise, all our praise belongs to him. All praise to his. Yeah, and it just goes and goes. And it's so well crafted around Jehovah. And then even just in the middle, the bridge says, it talks about Jehovah Nisi, fight your battles, that's what it means. God kind of identifies himself by all these different Jehovah names, right? Jehovah Jireh, and then, Jehovah Nisi.
It goes through
and then
all of them.
It goes through, it says, it kind of just harkens on Jehovah Nisi, fight your battles over and over again. Then it goes to Jehovah Jireh, meet your need, Jehovah Rapha, heal your body, Jehovah Shalom, be your peace. So, I mean, it goes through all of them, which I think is so good, because then you get all those names and you realize how many different ways that God identifies himself, how many different ways that he wants you to know him by.
I know a lot of people who listen to songs like this and they like automatically are turned away from it because they use like all the different names of God, and like they just don't like it. And I think it's silly, because I mean, this is exactly explaining like what all of it means, Right. So I think there's like some songs like Jireh. Yeah. Do you know that song?
I do know Jireh.
People don't tend to love that song because it's like it just says Jireh and doesn't give like a real good explanation. So, thoughts on that?
No, that's absolutely right, because Jireh, I mean, Jehovah Jireh is like, that's they say this one in here somewhere? Yeah, Jehovah Jireh, meet your need. It's like provider, right? And so, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Jireh because I just think I don't like it as musicality as much as this one. But, this one, absolutely, during the bridge, when it's identifying it all, you can definitely be like, oh, Jehovah Nisi means fight your battles, and then, that I do like that a lot. So, And then just musically, it's a good song. So I like that a lot.
I haven't listened to it.
Well, it's on your list.
It's on my list. I'm adding it to my list. Is it my turn?
I think it's your turn, if
Okay.
you have one.
I have one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What?
It might
Not 10
just,
minutes ago.
Not 10 minutes ago. And another thing about me, I am not a planner. I go. And later on, you'll find out some more about that.
You should have seen what it was like trying to plan this dang episode.
No, he
like, I'm
he
gonna
tried
write
to
2
track me
words.
down, and I was like, I ran away. And he has like this whole, like, if you could see his screen right now, you'd see this whole like
Plan, you know.
plan, like paragraphs on paragraphs, and then my section's like 2 bullet points.
Yeah.
That's
well,
it.
That's just it's supposed to be
2
a
like 1
conversation.
sentence bullet points.
Yeah.
So the song that I picked anyway is "So Will I" by Hillsong United, and I picked this song because of its controversy for one, but also I love this song. I listen to it almost every day, probably.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I listen to it probably every day. I play it. It's the first song I learned on guitar, which was like 3 weeks ago, for reference. I play it on piano all the time. I sang it in the stairwell of Houghton Hall. It was quite
did?
good. Yeah.
The whole song?
Oh yeah.
At like what, 3 a.m?
No.
When?
At like, I don't know, like 5 p.m. with
Okay.
Mia. Shout out Mia Becker. I love you. But people, okay, if you've heard the song and you know the controversy, there's 2 main points that I've heard, at least, that are the controversial points. And it's one line says, "Evolving in pursuit of what you said," and then a separate line says, "The light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die." Okay? Here's the thing. I don't think either of those lines are as bad as people make them out to be. And it's a lot of, okay, you know how hard it is to be a songwriter these days? For one, because you have to find creative lyrics. That's hard enough. And then if you're trying to be a Christian songwriter, it's like even more like you're limited because you can't say like, I don't know, 50% of the English, language.
Yeah.
And it's hard to reach people because people listen to secular music about,
A lot of different
a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But let me talk about that first line. Evolving in pursuit of what you said. Evolving doesn't always have to mean evolution, as in people turning from monkeys to
people.
human
Yep.
beings. And I think people, they hear the word evolve and they're like, no, that's all people are going to think of. Therefore, we cannot sing this in a church.
Mm-hmm.
And I say to that, shame on you.
Yeah.
Because evolving is actually supposed to be like pursuit and like changing in order to get somewhere.
Exactly.
And so evolving in pursuit of what you said, being like, God spoke in scripture right here, this Bible. God spoke, and we are striving to get to what God's told us. That's sanctification.
Mm-hmm.
And so I actually very much like that line. And then the second part to this whole like controversy thing is the light of the world abandoned in darkness to die. Light of the world is alluding to Jesus, and abandoned in darkness to die. People don't like to think that the Father abandoned the Son when he was on the cross. And scripture quite literally lays out the Father turned his face away.
Yep.
And Jesus cried out. And
my God, why have you forsaken me? Because he did.
Yeah. And so I think that is an extremely creative line. And I think it's a very true line. And I think people don't like that because they don't want to think that God abandoned anything.
Mm-hmm.
But God, quote unquote, abandoning Jesus on the cross was him not abandoning us as a sinful human race.
He was
at the same time. Because that in order for us to be redeemed, the sin needed to be abandoned. And then Jesus took that on. And so when the Father turns his face away, he's not necessarily, in my thought, turning it on Jesus, his son. He's turning it on the sin that Jesus took on.
Exactly.
Therefore, we can be redeemed.
He became sin for us. That was the whole point of that. He can't, and God can't, the Father, he can't look at sin. He can't even be near it. You would evaporate like a napkin on the sun. That's the way I like to put it. That's what would happen if you got close to God because of the sin that's in you. And so Jesus becoming the sin means he can't look at it. So he turns his face away. That's why even in the Garden of Gethsemane, he's bleeding or he's sweating drops of blood because he's realizing the Father is turning away. Even then, that's when it starts because he's praying. Right. He's like, please don't leave me. Now, it's also controversial to say that Jesus said, I don't want to do this. He said, this is going to hurt, and I don't want to do this, but I'm going to because it's your will kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's something that I think people don't quite understand. So,
and also, this song is so, musically simple, but so well, done.
And it's big.
It is a big song. It does. And the key that it's in, beautiful. All the lyrics, I think, are just... I heard this song. We sang it in church. Whoa. Gotta...
Whoa.
Put the brakes on there. And then, as soon as I started on our youth group praise band, it got taken off the list because of these two things and the fact that it was by Hillsong. Oh. And here's the thing. Here's my last part of this, little rant about the song. I don't think that you shouldn't use music just because of the people that wrote it. And Hillsong may have done a lot of things wrong. This song wasn't one of them. This song is so good.
It is.
And I think, people are like, oh, well, then they're going to look into the song and see who's associated with it. And then our church is, got a bad view. If you're doing that much looking into to try and find a downfall for your church, you will find it.
Exactly. Because the humans are sinful. Humans are fallen people. There will always be something
If somebody
wrong.
is seeking out to find one little crack in the masonry, it'll happen. It's there every time.
Absolutely.
Without fail. And so, therefore, I think use the songs. Because if people are looking that hard, they're going to find it somewhere else. And if they find it in the music, so be it. I'm not going to... there's no way to get around that. But songs like this are such rich songs and have such beautiful, creative, literary work. And they're just tossed to the side because somebody made it that they don't like.
Absolutely. That's good.
That's
Thank you for getting
last
that out
piece
there.
on that. Yeah, so there's your, last minute planning. Yeah.
It comes from the heart. That's how you
know.
Anyway.
Continue. Bluey.
All right, so Bluey, if you know the show, it's just this little kids show. Basically, it's a little kids show, and it's Australian, right?
Yeah, it is Australian.
They're based in Australia. Disney, I think, is the first place I saw it. Disney puts it on. It's just this little kids show about these dogs. I think that's what they are, dogs. This little family of dogs, mom, dad, Bluey, and Bingo. And they're two female siblings and then the mom and the dad. But it's a great show. I like it. So, but the thing about the music is that it's very, as musicians, it's very, odd to hear the theme song. You guys should definitely go listen to it on YouTube or whatever you want to listen to.
If you haven't seen the show, watch the show. It's so good.
Yes,
it's not just for children.
They're only 10-minute episodes, and they're quick. And
good
they
life
have
lessons.
Good life lessons. And they're
want to learn how to be a good dad? Go look at Bluey's dad.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so for real.
Exactly, for real.
Oh my gosh, what a show.
Anyway, so I got all this information I'm about to spit at you. I got from Adam Neely on YouTube. So credit him because he's did all the musicality stuff. But I'm going to say it because it makes sense. So generally, after you've gone and listened to it, if you're, a music nut, generally the timing is going to be in 4/4 for 3 measures and then 5/4 for 1 measures.
Which is so crazy.
Which is really crazy because it goes
so
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And a lot of you are like, well, that's just counting. It's an extra beat and you can feel it, the way that there are pauses. Now Jeff, Joff Bush, the composer, the guy who wrote this, he even says that's kind of what we were shooting for, that 4/4 and then 5/4, but he can't officially say that's what it is because that's just not how he wrote it.
And when you see it written out from 4/4 to 5/4, it looks so weird.
It does look really weird
because each of the beats that they shout, like Mom, Dad,
Or in
Bingo,
different
Bluey,
spots.
are in different spots. So every time you're just like, it's kind of guessing. I'm not gonna lie. If I was reading the music, it'd take a lot for me to be able to see it in 5/4 and be like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4,
Right.
go.
Yeah.
and then redo it the next time.
Now, something about the names that they shout, that's the hardest thing to time out, is that they are not in optimal spots for you just to be able to count it out. So somebody on the internet, can't remember his name, taught his kids to do it like this.
Shout out random guy on the internet.
Shout out random guy on the internet. Right at the end of the melody, you count 3 rests. Now, they're not rests necessarily. They're just 3 beats of emptiness.
Yeah.
So it's not a musically technical term,
Yeah,
but
and
the melody ends and you go 1, 2, 3, Dad, or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and he did it so that his kids could figure it out easier.
And the kids aren't
because
gonna
his
be
kids were
music
just
nuts,
like,
so-
yelling
Right.
at random times, and they were always wrong. And they were sad.
Exactly. Sad kids.
Sad kids
Sad
watch
kids.
Bluey.
Anyway, so that goes 3, 2, 1, and then when it gets to Bluey, the main character, there's no
It's-
rest, and it goes
yeah.
straight to her name.
Straight to Bluey.
Now, there's also one thing that I disagree with. Somebody else's theory on this is the fermatas. Now, fermatas in a musical term is just this thing that you hold the note, and it's the conductor would just hold it. So if you were in an orchestra, they'd be conducting, and then they go,
Hold.
Dad, or whatever it is, right? So that, I don't think that's right. That's just putting too much ambiguity in it.
That kind of makes sense.
Okay, musically it makes sense, but in my mind, like
For a
fermatas
conductor,
is-
that'd be so hard, though.
right?
Like, if you were conducting that and then all of a sudden you had to know exactly when to enter back in, that's so challenging.
Exactly, and I just like it. I like the fact that it 4/4/5/4 measures. That's
Right.
how it's timed out. That's good. I like that. Now, and if you notice in the introduction, they're playing freeze tag. They're tagging each other, and they freeze, and then their name kind of pops up. And I think that's why there's a wait there, and that's why there's like that pause, which I like. So, but if you want to get really technical, the term for this beat is called the Bo Diddley beat. And that's because there's this guy
Bo Diddley.
named Bo Diddley who is kind of very famous for using this beat. And if you know Faith by George Michael, not a Christian song, don't listen to it. That has the same beat, the same Bo Diddley beat. And if you know the song I Want Candy, the I Want Candy, same beat.
Boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom.
so it's a very same beat. But all in all, I think the thing that to note about the Bluey theme, I know that we are getting now theological about the Bluey theme, is that there's really no way to quantify it because we don't have actual music for it. It was actually during COVID when they made the show, so they had to record everybody's music in their home studios and push it together in
Which is
DAW,
crazy.
Which is crazy if you think about the
Those people are mad talented.
they are, because when you hear the music, it's like, wow, how did you do that?
Well, and I think the fashion in which he counts backwards when, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, Mom.
Right.
And then it just, you go Mom, and then 4 is Dad, 3 is Bingo, 2 is Bluey.
It's
And,
the other way around. It's 3, 2, 1, 0, and then
well, I count it different.
they
So,
count. Well, yeah, she counts it different.
you know, add another, I start right before the stop.
Yeah,
Because it makes more sense to me. But it really is up to interpretation.
it is
And I
because
think that's
you can't.
so,
We made up the time signature. You
Yeah.
can't you can't quantify a time signature because there's no way to scientifically. You can do that with
Yeah.
with pitch and with melody. You can count it out, but there's no way to totally quantify a time signature when it's just coming from an audio file.
yeah.
So I would say that a lot of times we're trying to figure that out too much, but you just can't because
Yeah.
this is just not how it is. So the timing had to be right for them to record it at their home studios, but we don't have.
So
that.
final thoughts on the Bluey theme are that
awesome.
it's amazing,
It is amazing.
musically genius, perfect for the show, and is also the biggest mystery.
It is also the big mystery. So.
Because there's so many different ways to do
I mean, if you're really nuts, you could do a polyrhythm of 17 against 4, and that gets
Okay,
you
you're
through the whole
done.
thing.
Nope.
But that just sounds really
Don't
weird.
do
so,
that. Don't
yeah.
listen to Brennan.
All
Mr.
right.
Peas.
Well,
All right.
this is Ladle.
Now we are going alone,
Nope.
kind of
Projectile commenting.
projectile commenting. This is you.
I know. I know.
You're saying,
Projectile commenting is
Huh?
next.
yeah, you're the one announcing that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing.
Oh, sorry.
Anyway,
My bad.
projectile commenting. So
I
this is just a bit of the show that we call projectile commenting. It's not vomiting, it's commenting. And the basis of it is just basically we're going to talk about hot takes, random topics, like classes, professors. I mean, it doesn't have to be Moody affiliated. We can do outside Moody stuff too. News, whatever it is.
Sorry, comment about the name real quick. I came up with it. I think it's really creative.
Oh my goodness.
And it was supposed to be the name for the podcast originally.
It was. We gone between Ladle of Peas and projectile commenting.
Mr. Peas over here talked me out of it.
Yeah,
so
well, you could have stood your ground. You're a strong.
Just know that this could have been projectile commenting the whole time, and you're missing that. No, I'm just kidding. Ladle of Peas.
Anyway,
moving on. Had to say it.
With our first topic, it might be our only topic. I don't know what we'll have time for. Is Disney remakes, live action Disney remakes?
Well, it doesn't even have to be Disney in my.
You're right.
I have a few.
Live action.
I have a few.
Live action
remakes in general.
In general.
Let me tell you, I rewatched a few in the past couple of days.
You did?
For this reason, yeah. I rewatched Aladdin because I love.
She loves Aladdin.
Okay. Let me roll up my sleeves.
All right, go ahead.
The live action remake for Aladdin, I think, is masterful. It's so well done. And it's very controversial because, in the original, which is also amazing. Robin Williams.
Yep.
Will Smith can't be Robin Williams.
That's true.
But Will Smith is Will Smith, and he's a darn good genie. Okay? And the fact that they incorporate a little bit of Fresh Prince in there with the "You'll never have a friend like me." You've never had a friend like me. Oh my goodness, I'm getting it wrong. They throw a little rap in there to give a little,
oomph
gesture to Fresh Prince back in the day when.
See, I love Fresh Prince. I like Will Smith up until he punched
Chris
someone.
Rock.
And I mean, I have my opinions on that whole debacle, but that's not what this is about.
This isn't about that.
But when you think about
keep talking.
Okay. Will Smith is great. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is great because I love 80s shows, But it's just the fact that he's not Robin Williams. It's just it can't now. Her perspective is, of course, it's not gonna be Robin Williams. You gotta deal with what you get. And I didn't say he's a bad genie. I love the original Aladdin so much that it's become the. I'm a diehard fan, I guess is how you could say it.
Yeah.
So I just can't get past it. He's too Will Smithy. He's not enough Robin
Genie.
Williams spunky.
The thing is that he's still the character of Genie. He's just not Robin Williams.
You're right. And okay.
Which is good, actually. From an actor's perspective,
you don't want to be someone else.
You don't want to be exactly like the other guy. And that makes some people upset because they're like, oh, well, no, it's not Aladdin. And by some people, I mean you.
Okay.
And
well, I didn't. Okay. Yeah. So she's saying this because when did we talk about this?
Yesterday.
This
last
was
night.
yesterday?
Yep.
Last night?
Yes.
Oh, we talked about this last night.
In Culbertson 1.
So the thing is that I watched the movie. I watched it in theaters. I remember it clearly. If it wasn't trying to be Aladdin, I would have loved it. Or no, I did like it. I liked the movie a lot, but it's just the fact that it's trying to be Aladdin that just really gets me because it's not the original. It's just I don't know. It's dumb. It's dumb to say that because everybody is going to be like, well, of course it's not the original. It's the remake. But it just there's the way that it carries itself. It's a good movie. It's just it doesn't fit Aladdin for me. I don't know if it's just because it's live, and I don't remember ever seeing it live. It just it didn't sit with me right. I liked the original. I liked the way that it was like funny but a little serious and a little scary and a little all that. I don't know. If Will Smith had said the line about "I can't believe I'm losing to a rug," maybe I would have liked it better because that's my favorite line in the whole movie, the original, when he's playing what is he chess with the mug and he's like the rug and he's like, "I can't believe it. I can't
Did you
believe
say
it.
a mug?
I'm losing to a rug." That's my favorite line in the whole show. Anyway.
And the other thing I like about the live action remake is when they're doing the songs, the cinematography. Let me talk about that for a minute. I did a videography class in high school, and right around then is when this came out, I think. And I think for class, my teacher, Miss Sparks.
Shout out Miss Sparks.
Shout out Miss Sparks. I love you and I miss you. I think we talked about this in class one day because they do like this little fast, like
At the end?
No. It's during. What's the song? It's Aladdin's song. One jump ahead of
Oh, yeah, right at the beginning then.
Uh-huh. What is that? What's the song called? Not steal, only what I can afford, and that's everything.
I don't remember. You keep talking.
Anyway,
I'll look it up.
Oh, that's gonna bother me now. But they do such good cinematography because they do like slow motion and then they do sped up, like 2 times speed.
Yeah, they do that at
filming.
the end though too.
And maybe they do. I didn't.
And I don't know why that bothered me a lot, but it did.
I loved it because Mina Masood, the guy who plays Aladdin, he lines up the words for the song while going in 2 times speed, and that's so difficult to do.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
So when he is doing the lip syncing?
Yes, it's going like double the speed, and
So he's singing it in half the speed.
right.
Holy cow!
And
I
he
didn't
lines
know
it
that.
up,
I actually
and that's
like that.
incredible.
It's One Jump Ahead. That's what it's called.
One jump ahead. Wow, I'm dumb for that, low key.
No.
I literally sang one jump ahead. What's the song called? But yeah, so that's Aladdin. Moving on from Aladdin.
Wait, I do want to say one more thing about Aladdin.
Okay, fine.
To my family. If my siblings and my cousins remember, we did, right after that remake came out, we did this whole thing where we made an Aladdin play in the living room, and I had to be Aladdin. I think I was the rug at some point. I had to be the elephant. I was a lot of the roles. I was the only male. I have a lot of...
Were you Jafar?
No, I wasn't Jafar.
Were you Janir?
Nope.
Get it? Janir Jafar.
Yep. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, what other remakes do you want to talk about here? Because we got as far as Disney goes, we got Mulan.
I wanted to talk about The Lion King.
The Lion King. Okay.
Oh,
I
and
remember
Mulan.
And Mulan. You talk about Mulan because Mulan's. I haven't
Mulan,
seen it, but
the live
it's
action
really good.
remake is not Mulan. Period. It's not it. The live action remake doesn't have Mushu, and Mulan doesn't end up with what's his name?
Prince.
No,
Whatever.
not a prince.
Yeah, I thought he was a prince.
He's
He was
an army general guy.
Yeah, no, but wasn't he the?
What's his name? Look it up.
Okay.
But she doesn't end up with him. They're just like pals in the end. Which the
Li
whole
Shang?
Li Shang.
Isn't he? I thought he was the, maybe not the prince, but
No, Shang. General Shang.
General Shang. Yeah.
And he doesn't end up with her in the end of the live
The live action? What? Well,
No.
is it because women are?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
At least I think so. But it's so annoying to me because the whole point of Aladdin is one, Mushu is like the comedic relief. You can't have Mulan without Mushu. And when I heard they were doing that, I was like, okay, I'm not going to see this movie. Great. I won't go to see it. And then it came out on Disney Plus, and my sister was like, well, maybe we should watch it.
Just
And
so
I was
you
like,
know what
Jessica?
you're talking about.
I said, Jessica, no, I can't. And then I watched it on my own time without her.
Wow. So okay. Does she
Because-
know that you watched it?
Yeah, I think so. Jessica, if you're listening to this, we'll watch it together. But it's a terrible remake. And it's like a good movie if it wasn't labeled as Mulan.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
No,
So you're
because
saying
Aladdin
live
follows the
action-
plot of Aladdin.
Yeah, but apparently Mulan doesn't either. If he doesn't end up with General.
No, but they took out characters. They changed the whole course of the plot. They didn't do that with Aladdin. They didn't take out characters. You still
But you
have...
just said the same thing I said about Aladdin.
No,
You said
it's
it would be
different.
great if it wasn't Mulan.
Well, yeah. If
Hmm.
it wasn't labeled as Mulan, it'd be a great other movie. A great female empowerment
That's what I'm saying about Aladdin.
moment,
That's what I'm saying about Aladdin.
I guess. What, that it's female empowering?
Nope. Nope. No. That no.
I'm kidding. Oh, that was good. Okay, Lion King.
Now I did watch Lion King. I did not watch Mulan, but I watched Lion King, and I don't remember a ton about it, but I do remember it being live.
It was It was live CGI.
And I can't remember, they didn't use real lions. Those were all
Nope.
CGI. So I
Yep.
will say that was impressive that they had CGI lions that were
Yeah.
like that.
The
because those were
CGI
pretty
was
good.
very impressive. The voice actors, I was not impressed with.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say about that. The original Lion King is my favorite. Actually my favorite Disney film. And
Lion King, the original, is your favorite Disney film?
I think it might be. It's so good. It just has such good life lessons. Like Simba, goes through it and comes out on top. And that's like, yeah, if Simba can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And I've seen the musical on
Oh, yeah. Broadway?
touring on Broadway. I've seen it probably 4 times now.
Really?
Yeah, in a different
that
theater
good?
each time. I think it's my favorite musical.
Really?
Yeah, every time I go to see it, I'm so impressed.
Huh.
This is going off the live action route and into the musicals, but wowee, can they put on a show with the puppet? They have like puppets.
Yeah, that's what I don't like. I don't like puppets.
No, if you went to go see it, wow. You wouldn't know that it was a puppet half the time because you're just like, wow, this guy, he's in it. But they don't use the part of their body that's showing, and it's like completely disguised. So like
Really?
like Timon, has the puppet, and it only goes up to like about, his shoulder maybe, and that's like the top of his head. And then the rest of his body is like green, like greenery and like plant stuff. So it's supposed to be like the background, or and it changes. And so all you can really focus on is the puppet and like how it's moving. And Pumbaa, oh my gosh, that puppet's got to be heavy. Because
Oh, is that a fat joke?
no, it's not a fat joke. It's the fact that they like accurately sized Pumbaa to like what an actual warthog would be compared to Timon, who's like very small.
Really?
And it's like this huge puppet, and you can't even see the guy because he's inside of it. And there's
Wow.
like this whole back end.
And do they
it's,
do lines? Like, that case is musical. Do they do all the,
Yeah.
so the guy inside the costume is still performing?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
100%. And then Zazu, the bird.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, funniest. Oh my gosh, it's so good. But Zazu is literally only the guy's hand, I think. And it's crazy. It's so good. Anyway, sorry. I love
So that was
musicals.
musicals.
Yeah, let me get back to...
Well, we can just move on
reroute.
if you want. I don't know that we have anything much left to talk about.
Okay, we'll move on to Going Alone. Now I'm on the right track, right?
Yep. And I'll give you extra time for this one.
Going Alone, mostly. In this section of the pod, I will be playing a sort of game. I'm going to tell you a story about my life, and you have to guess whether it's true or false. Now, this week, we're doing it a little different. So, to get you guys started off, I'm going to tell you 3 short stories about my childhood.
Okay, so you
is what I
couldn't
decided.
decide. That's what that means.
I couldn't decide, so I picked 3. They're short. Don't worry. 3 short stories about my childhood. And then next week, I'll have another story that I'll tell you. And you guys have to guess whether it's true or false. We'll put a poll out on the Instagram.
probably,
Go
yeah.
follow the Instagram if you haven't already.
Yes, please.
and-
At Ladle Appease Podcast.
Yeah. Spelled Ladle for those who don't know how to spell ladle. Anyway, me. I don't know how to spell ladle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It was me. I didn't know how to spell ladle.
Well, that too. But, you interrupted my train of thought.
You're going to tell stories next week.
Oh,
It's going to be the
Next week,
competition kind
you
of
guys will have to vote because I'm really good at coming up with stories.
But she's also got an insane life.
I have
I'm sure you will
I've
figure out
a
right now.
crazy life. And then the Peas portion, Mr. Peas over here, is going to be telling me about a part of a vehicle. Now, I'm no mechanic, and you'll learn that very quickly, but Brennan is going to try and teach me about a specific car part each week.
Until we've got a whole car, and then she's going to build one right here.
Oh, that's a task.
Actually, I just
will
want
not have a
to
running
be able to
vehicle.
explain it enough that she can she can explain it back to me in her gibberish that I'll be able to understand it.
Yeah, good
Now,
luck.
here's the thing. This is going to be on YouTube at some point. this is where I would recommend you watch it because I've got my little
He does,
my
in fact,
prop.
have a car part in the room with us.
And that's going to be helpful. And then I think we're also going to show some images for helpful.
Maybe you guys can guess, too, what it is if he doesn't decide to tell you.
Yeah, I'm going to do my best for people who just want to listen to it to explain what it is.
And then from there, we will wrap this ladle of peas up with a nice pat of butter on top. So, but I'll start off with my stories.
Go ahead. I'm ready.
Okay. Story number 1. When I don't know how old I was, very young. And Brennan already knows this story. But I was very young, and we were getting babysat, me and my sister Jessica. Jessica, if you're
getting sat on.
Babysat. Jessica, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. You're going to be in these a lot. She is my best friend, biggest part of my life.
Ouch.
You're also my best friend.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But you're not my sister, so my brother in Christ.
Thank God.
But when I was really young, I went into the kitchen and I saw the screen door. Now, I lived in the middle of nowhere, like absolutely nowhere. Allegan, Michigan, if anyone knows where that is. And I lived in the middle of the Allegan forest on a hill, and our driveway was dirt, and it was about like a mile and a half long to get to the nearest road. And to that, there was nobody really around. So it was me, Jessica, and our babysitter. I think it was Nicole at the time. We had a lot of different babysitters. We went through them like nothing. And I don't know if that's because we were crazy kids or what, but we just couldn't keep consistent babysitters half the time. So one day I saw the screen door, and I think I might have been like, well, we moved to that house when I was 4. So I must have been like 5 years old at this time. And I saw the screen door, and I was like, man, I want to cut that thing right open. I was like, I want nothing more than to slice this thing to bits. But I knew that if I did it at my height, I would get in big trouble because they would know it was me. So what do? I grab a stool. I walk it over. I get it to about like where my sister can reach at her highest point. And I take that pair of scissors and I cut it right at Jessica's height. And I just cut the biggest hole in this thing. And, like, my parents know this now. I told them, like, the last year. And they were like, what? And, yeah. So my parents get home. I put the stool back. I threw away the part of the screen door that I cut out. And I put the scissors back. I, hid the evidence. Yep. My parents get back. My dad opens the slider door to the back of the house, and he's like, girls, and I'm like, oh boy, it's showtime. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sweating a little bit because my dad is a former cop, former detective actually, and
that makes it worse. I don't know that I would have the gumption to do that if my father was a detective.
At the time, I don't think he was a detective. I think he was still on the road, police officer. Okay. So he comes up to me and my sister, and he's like, which one of you cut the screen door? And I'm a little actor, okay? And I'm like...
Actress.
Well, yeah. But I'm like, I can't reach that high. And my sister looks at me, and she's like, so confused, because she knows she didn't do it. And Jessica's like, well, I didn't do it. I'm like, well, I didn't do it. And my dad's like, Jessica, walk over to the screen door and put your hand as high as you can. Perfect match.
You did not. Perfect
match. And I was like, wow, this is incredible because I'm not going to get in trouble today. And my dad was like, Jessica Lynn Lytle, you're in so much trouble right now. And goes off on her. My sister's crying, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I did it. I'm her. I was like, wow, I got away with that. And then the second thing also pertains to me tormenting my sister.
That's letting your intrusive thoughts win, by the way. When you cut a screen like that, 'cause I've done that too with a little like knife, just cut a hole in a screen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's really letting it loose.
The second story is also pertaining to my sister and me tormenting her. My sister is 1.5 years older than me, for reference.
Which is why
I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest sibling. Well, there's only 2 of us. Younger of the 2. And she had this piggy bank. Now, we had these Discovery piggy banks from the Discovery Channel, and if you put a coin in, it would document how much change you put in the jar.
Electronically?
Yes.
Okay.
and it had batteries in it and everything. And so we both had these piggy banks. She had the cooler one. It was black and green. I was always envious. I wanted hers because mine was pink. And I do not like the color pink. But she had this really cool piggy bank, and it was filled to the brim with coins.
Money.
I forget what it was that I wanted to buy, but I wanted to buy something, and I didn't have enough money in my bank for it. I think it was actually a stuffed animal that I did, in fact, end up buying. Not with her money, but for my birthday or something. I think I got it.
Tell them that. That would have been a great end to the story.
Oh, well, it's a current end to the story. No, I'm just kidding. But, and I went into her room one night because she was furthest down the hall from me, and I took her piggy bank in the middle of the night. And I went back into my room, and I took the lid off her piggy bank, and I put each coin into mine so it would document every time. So it looked like I had all the money all along. And it was really her money. And so at the end of it, my piggy bank was like almost about to overflow. Like, she had so much change.
You were rolling in the dough.
I was rolling in it. And then I went in and I reset her button. So she wouldn't know.
It said 0?
It said 0. So she wouldn't know how much that I took from her. So mine would say that I had like $70-some, and hers would say none. Instead of mine saying like $20 and hers saying $50. So I put it back in her room. And in the morning, I get like a fierce knock on my door, like bang, bang, bang.
So a bang on your door.
Well, yeah. And Jessica whips open my door and says, "Where's my money?" I'm like, "What money, dude?" Like, that sounds like a you problem, dog. I don't know what you're talking about. And she is so mad. And eventually they did find out that I had taken her money because I felt bad. You know, conviction hit. And I was like, "I'm sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that." And I gave it all back. But in the time, my sister storms downstairs, goes to get my dad. And my dad's, like, getting ready for work. He's, like, not having it. And my dad walks in the room, and he's like, "Justine, did you take her money?" And I'm like, "No." Actress part 2. And I'm like, "No, of course not." And he's like, "Yes, you definitely took it." And I'm like, "No, I didn't." And he, like, interrogated me. Detective style.
Detective father.
Detective style, full on. Mark Jeffrey Lytle, the detective, came out and was like, "Justine Elizabeth Lytle, did you take your sister's money?" And I said, "No, but yeah." And then I forgot how much I had, so I gave her my entire piggy bank because my parents were like, "Nope, this is your punishment." And so she got all like the $70 or whatever was in there. Third story, last story. This one's really quick. There was one morning, my dad used to cook for us on Saturday mornings, big breakfast. And my dad is an incredible cook. Fantastic. The rest of my family isn't, but that's okay. And he's cooking pancakes and bacon, and I was in a bad mood. And I was like, "I don't want your cooking. I don't want to deal with my family right now." I was being a moody little kid. I was probably like 10. And so I didn't come out of my room for breakfast, but I smelled the bacon. And I love me some bacon. And so I smelled it. I was like, "Oh, man, I kind of want some of that." So I waited till everyone was gone. They had left to go do something with the rest of our family, I think, that day. But they left me home alone, which wasn't abnormal. Like, I stayed home alone often because I was a really antisocial person at one point in time. And I went downstairs. And we had a dog, right? And have you ever seen bacon strips?
No.
Look it up because they're like fake bacon for dogs. And they look like a bacon strip. They look like...
Oh, you know what? No, I think I definitely have.
They look like bacon.
Yeah, I've definitely had those. I have ingested this before.
I have also ingested this.
Who wouldn't? That looks like good bacon.
This is where the story is going.
Oh, okay.
I walked downstairs, and on the counter was a bacon strip that was meant for my dog Cooper at the time. And I was like, "Oh, they left me a piece." Oh. And I grabbed it off the counter, and I ate it, and immediate regret set in. And I spat it out so fast, and I ran away. As if somebody was there to catch me in the act. I ran away. And I sprinted away. But
wow.
I was a crazy child. Not as crazy as my sister. If I could tell all the stories on here, which I can't because some of the stuff I can't say on the internet. And I wish that I could.
Wow.
But I tormented my sister. My sister tormented our babysitters. That's what I'll say. That's all I'll say.
That's good.
Anyway, on to P's portion of going alone, now that he only has a few minutes left.
Okay. So this will start small. I'll go over this again next week if we have more time.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to start with kind of 1.5 pieces here. Okay.
Oh.
This is the piston. Okay. Now, if you want to get all technical about it, this part itself is just the piston part. This bottom part is technically different. It's the small end and the big end.
Mm-hmm.
So the piston is what drives. I'm going to speak into the microphone this time.
Yeah.
The piston is what drives your car. Okay.
Wait, what?
So yes. So inside the engine, and we'll go over this later, but this thing goes up and down inside of a cylinder.
Right.
Right. This goes up and down like this. Okay?
I know how that works.
You know how that works.
Because of Ultimate Frisbee.
Right. Yes, that definitely makes
It's
sense.
a long story.
Yes. So this piston goes up and down.
Yeah.
But it's just that this head part goes up up and down inside the cylinder, right? Now let's pretend we're taking this pen.
Okay.
This pen is another thing called the crankshaft. This is the more important part.
Oh, okay.
The crankshaft spins like this. Now for
show them.
the audio people, it's just like if you took a pen and you spun it in your hands. Like, how do you describe that? Just like you rolled it on a counter, right? That's how it spins.
Yep.
Now this crankshaft is more. I'll show you the picture here on my computer. The crankshaft looks like this.
Oh,
It is made up of different.
This is a complex photo, folks.
Yes, it is. So all this does is that this hangs on to one of the varying things, and as the crankshaft moves, the piston, this moves like this, and clockwise, but it pushes the piston up and down inside the thing like this, right? This spins, this goes up and down. Now, we'll get into the rest of it later, but eventually this top part is where the explosions happen.
Mm-hmm.
This is where the spark and the gas and everything. But all you need to know right now is that the crankshaft moves, it spins, and there will be multiple of these, 4, 8. If you're fancy in your Lamborghini or Ferrari, you have 12. But it spins like this, and then other pistons go like this in a different manner. But this spins like this goes up and down, and we can dissect this more next week too.
Yeah.
But there's your beginning. There's your beginning of your piston and crankshaft.
Okay. Well, tune in next week to hear about my thoughts on what the heck that does.
Yes.
Because it reminds me of something that I saw in Wipeout once. You ever watch Wipeout?
Yes. That's actually a good. I know what you're talking about. That's
you know exactly what I'm talking about. That is.
Yeah, that just about does it for our very first episode.
Very first episode in the books.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm very glad that you guys came along.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in. And welcome to the P-Pod fans.
Yes, now you're part of the P-Pod.
And I'm Ladle.
And I'm Peace.
And that'll do it for today.
And that'll do it. So
have a wonderful, blessed week.
Yes, have a wonderful, blessed week.
Bye.